With data, it can live anywhere. Once it's copied once, it will be copied 1,000 times. So it's not really about ownership of data, it's more about you having your personal copy of all of that data.
So we're about to go inside to CitizenMe's office. They're at Somerset House. I mean, what a place at central London. Definitely, this is just incredible. And what they do is quite fascinating in the sense that they focus on user data, but they empower the user in such a way to actually take control of their data and even to sell it in some circumstances. And I think this is a quite hot topic that we need to understand. So really curious to understand the business, see what their company culture is like and meet the people there. So we are at Somerset House.
Hi.
Thanks for inviting us to your office.
Oh, you're welcome.
Can you tell about, first of all, yourself, the place, and then the business? We'd like to hear about that.
Sure, so I'm Sinjan, I'm founder of CitizenMe. We're all about empowering people with their own data. So we have about 250,000 people so far on the platform, all with kind of deep copies of their data. We then enable them to get value for it. And value can be anything from getting better products and services through to donating data for good and common good causes, and also for cash.
Yeah.
So we kind of effectively kind of creating a personal data transaction layer for the internet, and enabling people to participate fully on their own terms. So it kind of flips the way the internet works. Right.
That's quite interesting. I want to go into a bit more detail about that in a moment. But before we do that, how big is the team currently?
So our team is getting us for about 18 people. We have a team here, and we also have a development team in Turkey. So we kind of co-work between those two spaces, and our team here is getting bigger. We're getting to the point where we need to expand our office space. But we've been going for kind of 3 or 4 years here. And it's taken us a while to kind of get the right technology in place, and we're now at that kind of inflection point where things are taking off on both sides of the marketplace we have.
So I find what you do particularly fascinating at such a time, because there's this Cambridge Analytica, Facebook scandals, all of that, and it's just a time in history where people are asking the question, who owns my data, right?
Yeah.
So how does that business play into that, and how does it work commercially? You're talking about giving people ownership of data.
Yeah.
How does it actually work? Can you tell a bit about that?
Yeah, it's fascinating. Well, the first thing about kind of ownership of data is a big question, right?
Yeah.
And the problem with the ownership of data kind of concept is that we're thinking of data as an industrial era good, right? So it's like there's an analog coffee pot, and you can have it once and you sell it, and there's a transaction of one analog thing.
You can infinitely copy for free, right?
Exactly. With data, it can live anywhere. Once it's copied once, it will be copied 1,000 times. So it's not really about ownership of data, it's more about you having your personal copy of all of that data.
Okay.
And the big problem we have at the moment is that all that data goes into silos. It goes in, Facebook, Google, Amazon, Netflix, whatever. And you end up with kind of shards of your data living in different places around the internet. And then those companies are trying to get more and more data to give you better services, but it's a really inherently broken system, because the best place for you to have a 360 view of you is with you. So instead of kind of having data move to where the AI is, we have the AI move out to where the individuals are, and let the individuals aggregate up their data between them. They get full value, they actually participate more with more data and more insights for the entire ecosystem. Right.
So can you talk about your growth numbers in both the financial and in terms of, if you can, to the extent that you can share, in terms of sales and your user acquisition?
So we spent a lot of time getting the core technology right in terms of kind of individuals. We have, first thing to build out is an application which people love interacting with. And so what we've done is gamify that, so people do kind of short little kind of activities, and every time we do an activity, you get kind of a little wow moment for you. And in the background, what we've actually done is kind of populate your data. The second thing is then getting the two-sided marketplace going. So you have this data store, and we're now up at 250,000 people signed up with the applications. We have a good kind of critical mass there. And the next thing is opening up for brands. So we have a number of big brands now coming on the platform, and we're growing revenues by about 150% a month at the moment in terms of those kind of companies coming in, and they're requesting data anonymously from thousands of citizens at a time. So the citizens understand exactly what they're giving, and the organizations know that they're getting verified, accurate, true data with some AI insights built in as well.
Yeah. Did you receive any seed or Series A?
So I funded off my last exit and did a lot of early R&D, really trying to understand what data means to people, how they interact with data. And then from there we moved on to kind of a small series, a seed round with kind of some high net worth angels.
Yep.
We kind of raised about $1.5 million that way. And we're gearing up now for kind of a late stage seed round.
And how does London play a part in this? So what are some best and worsts about living in London and having this office in London?
So I spent 13 years in Singapore, which is a wonderful culture and it's an amazing place to live. But for this company, London was really the only place to come. We looked at Silicon Valley, which is the obvious place to go for cash and for the ecosystem. But actually, London is a global city, which has the right kind of regulatory framework for the moment because of the EU and GDPR.
Yeah.
The government's very pro-open data, so we have things like open banking initiatives, so people can reclaim a copy of their own banking data, that kind of thing.
Okay, can you tell about your experience with the company and why do you keep coming back to this workplace?
Yeah, no, I think it's a really cool place to work. Definitely a really nice environment and really nice people, and just learning a lot and making a difference and a social impact. So definitely that's one of the main things that I would say.
So how long has it been since you joined the company?
So just 3 months.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
What were you expecting before you joined the team, and what's the reality been like? What are your observations so far?
Yeah, so I kind of came from a market research background, so very much kind of a structured, and I wanted to have something a bit different in terms of like a startup, something that's a bit more fast paced and doing something very different, especially in the data world. I mean, actually my expectations have been met and probably exceeded. Yeah, it's been really good, and I've kind of moved from a role where it's just purely insight and just looking at data to actually really helping the company sort of grow in the relationships and client work and stuff like that. And so that's kind of been something quite different to what I was sort of expecting, but it's been really good, really exciting clients that I've met, so it's really quite interesting work.
I've researched online about what you do, obviously, but I don't have the level of understanding you do about the business. But I think what you're doing is really cool in the sense that you're empowering people to get a hold of their data and actually own that and have control over that. So do you have any comments on that? How do you think that affects the company culture and the way things are run around here? If any of you has a comment on that, I'd really love to hear that.
We are in a very unique situation at the moment because a lot of the big guys in terms of the Facebooks, the Googles, the guys that traditionally have a lot of the power with the data, they are suddenly becoming under a lot more scrutiny, especially from things like GDPR, the IOC, and we are in that space now where we are leading the light in terms of individual data, in terms of security, in terms of being able to create a data set where you're not having to pull it from loads of different silos. We can just collate it in one go. So we can do everything from question and answers, verified data, apps, and it's something that a lot of big companies are spending a lot of money doing. And although money's getting spent here, we're doing it in a much cleaner and more efficient way. And I think that's sort of testament to the vision that sort of St. John had. So that's kind of where I think we are at the moment and why we're quite different and unique.
The startup life is quite different than working in a large organization. Has any of you worked in, other than you obviously answered yes to that question, worked in large organizations before, or is this your first experience in? So
before joining here, I was a freelancer. So I've been working as a freelance designer for the last 8 years. So in the time I've been working with, as a short-term designer, I've been working with some big companies as well. So one of them was Nissan Motors. So I've been working for them as a freelance designer for a couple of months. And in big companies, it's like they have everything is defined. Like I'm a designer, for me they have like all these things, design stuff are defined, that they have done all their research and all the things are done for myself. So, and all the design tools are also available they already had their own defined fonts, such as or own defined design system as well. That's a good thing, but it's kind of like as a designer it fits you, like you are in this in this space. And for startup, I've been working on so many startups as well. So startups has kind of like big more challenges as a designer. It gives you more challenges as a designer, and like
more room, but it's definitely
it's
more decisions.
more decisions. But it's really a challenging thing, because you learn great things, and I get chance to do my research as well. So yeah, it's kind of like a new experience for me as well.
For the people who are looking to join this company in a future date, what do you think they should know about the business? And with that, can you try to describe the company culture in a few words?
For me, the critical thing is enabling people to grow and flourish in the role. It's a startup. It's moving very quickly. It's sometimes a little disorganized. So like any startup, it basically kind of moves quite quickly. But I think the important thing is basically having that kind of culture where people feel like they can grow within the role.
And as with everything, the company culture is not something that's static. It changes over time. How has it changed, and how do you foresee it changing into the future?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I mean, so we started. Actually came back from Singapore 2013. We launched the first version of the app 2014. Which was, and we realized that kind of first version of the app was very kind of locked down. It was very evangelically kind of like activist, if you like, right? And then we kind of realized that kind of in terms of kind of the way that people really want to work with the application, and people want to use the application, it has to be much more human-centric, right? So the culture of the company has kind of changed a little bit as well through that. It's become a lot more commercially focused. The early days, it was kind of a lot more kind of activist and kind of ethically, it's still very ethically rooted, but it was kind of much more on the kind of activist side. And you actually need to balance that with the commercial reality and the way that people really behave with technology.
Essentially building a business about managing complexity, and that complexity is sometimes it lies with people, sometimes lies with commercial partners, customers. But the key part of that is also the tech tools, the SaaS services, if you will, that you depend on as a business. And with each business, the degree is different. Some businesses really depend on them. Some businesses have their own software teams that do almost everything in custom. So where do you lie in that? And with that, what are some if you use some tech tools, what are the tech tools that you think are really valuable for your business?
We still have everything kind of proprietary out on the edge, but our core services we're basically running off AWS. So we, like most other people, we're running on AWS core. All the data stays out with the individual devices, but all of the the classic payments and secure core infrastructure, we basically run off. We're not going to differentiate there.
So what are some future milestones for the business then?
So my big long-term goal, my hairy audacious goal, is basically we're in a digital world where everything around us is going to become digital. We are going to get to a point where we want everything to just seamlessly work for us, and the only way that can happen is if the services have amazingly complete and accurate access to your personal data. That can either sit in a Google or an Apple silo, or it can sit with you on your device, and that's kind of the place that we'd like to get into.
I love it, actually. I personally feel a part of this journey. And I personally feel that this is something like I should work individually to push towards, because it's the future that I do prefer as well.
Yeah,
having
of course.
My own data on my phone, on my device, and having actually some say on how that is used.
Yeah, and that has to be the way we go. In the short term, we're in the market research industry, so if you want to access really accurate insights very, very quickly with full consent and participation, you can do that on our platform, and you have a self-service GUI where people can come in and basically access real-time insights. And we apply AI both on the device to provide individuals with insights and also our customers as well. And then beyond that, we get into kind of other markets, and that could be lead generation, ad tech. We're doing stuff in health research at the moment, fairly kind of serious trials on mental health, because we can do things like look at use background data to tell you what your mood state is. And then we're also getting into things like fintech as well. There are many, many markets for personal data. The key thing is that you have the ability to participate in all of those different markets.
I mean, first of all, this has been a wonderful conversation that I honestly learned about the business, and not just this business, but about more about data and our rights, and it has prompted me to think more critically about these. So thank you for taking the time.
Thank you
for joining the show, and we are really happy to be here. And yeah, this is, I think, the end of this episode. But I should say to the people, please join the Startup London channel and join to watch our videos and other series.